السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعزائي طلبة وطالبات الصف الحادي عشر، أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم في حلقة متجددة من درس على الهواء. درس اليوم مخصص لمادة اللغة الإنجليزية مهارات، وقتا مفيدا وممتعا أتمناه لكم، ونبدأ الدرس على بركة الله. We are going today to read and listen to identify the main ideas of sections of a text. This is our first learning outcome. The second one, we are going to study the present perfect continuous. Now I want you to open your student's book, page 17, and you can notice that in this page we are going to start the second theme today, which is called the mind. But before we explain the definition of this title, I want you to look at the page, and actually here we have different areas and different parts. The first one here on the top side, left side of the page, we can see the unit aims, and also we can see the study areas, the skills: reading, writing, listening, speaking, grammar, and vocabulary. Okay? And on the left side, down here, we have the vocabulary books, the mind vocabulary books. On the top, the right side of the page, we have the mind, as we said. Here we have the question box. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions, but actually we are going to answer question number 2. And in the left or in the right side of the page, we can see an animal. This animal is called orangutan. Now, let's go back to the title here. The mind. The mind actually is the part of a person that makes it possible for him or her to think, feel, and understand. So this is the part that we have. We call it mind. Because you have mind, so you are able to express your ideas, to think, and you feel, you understand things. Okay? Now, the animal here, as we said, is called orangutan. He or she looks like chimpanzee or monkeys, but it is a different kind of species. This animal is called the man of the forest in the Malay language. Malay language is the language of people who are living in Indonesia or Malaysia. So they call this animal a man of the forest. Why they call it a man, we will come to know later on. They are great apes native to Indonesia and Malaysia. They are found in the rainforest of Borneo and Sumatra. They eat or they feast on wild fruits. They make nets in trees of vegetation to sleep at night and rest during the day. Now, we need to ask ourselves an important question here. What is the relationship here between the mind, which is the title, and the animal here? Why did they choose to bring a photo of an animal, and we are talking about the mind? Because we know that the mind is one of the special features of human being. Actually, there is a link here between these two things. But before we explain this, I want you to watch this. Okay? I hope that you've come with an idea why the title, the mind, and the photo is an animal photo. You could see that this kind of animal could imitate the actions of a human being. So we can say they have a kind of mind they have an ability to imitate others, to think about it, to do as same as a human being. Okay, so now let's move to the question. Question number 2. Complete the questions with words from the vocabulary box. How many questions can you make? Okay, here we have 3 questions. Number 1, 2, and 3. Can animals, and we have a gap here. Have you got a good, and we have a gap. When do you feel, and we have a gap here. But before this, let's look at these words in this vocabulary box talking about the mind. The first one is communication. What do you mean by communication? Communication is the use of or the ability to express your ideas, your feeling, and to deliver a message to another one. So this is communication. Creativity is the ability to use your imagination in order to produce something new or to produce an art. We have the word fear here. Fear means the feeling that you have when you are in a dangerous situation. Feel, the ability to feel, it means emotions, that you have emotions about something. To feel happy, to feel sad, and so on. Forget, it means that you are not able to remember things or an events which happened earlier. Funny here, the meaning of funny here is to make somebody laugh. Imagine here to form a picture in your mind of what something might be like. So for example, I have an imagination of the kind of cars that will exist, for example, in 3000, for example. Look for, search, you search for something. Memory is the store where you keep your memories, you keep things, and to remember things. Remember here, same, we have, it's the opposite of forget. To remember things, it means that you can recall events and things. Think is to have a particular idea or opinion about something, to try to experience something. To understand, it means to realize and know the meaning of words, of what somebody say, and so on. Watch, of course, is an easy one, and of course you know it. Now you are watching me on TV, so this is watch. Now we want to use these words in these 3 questions. Now, for example, number 1, can animals, actually here we need a verb. So can animals, for example, feel? Can animals forget? Can animals imagine? So can they do such things? Can animals remember, for example? Can animals think, understand, and so on? The second one, have you got a good? Here we need a noun. We need a noun. So have you got a good imagination, for example? Have you got a good memory? And so on. Question number 3. When do you feel? For example, when do you feel creative? When do you feel happy? When do you feel, for example, angry, afraid, and so on? So I want you to remember the meaning of all these words because they are very important and you will get benefit from in your journey in this unit. So now let's move to the second question. Here we have, open your book, page 18. Question number 2. Choose the correct verb, then decide if you think the sentences are true or false. So we need to choose between these two verbs. So in each sentence, we have two verbs. We need to choose the correct one. So let's start number 1. Sheep can imagine or remember faces. So what do you think? Sheep can imagine faces or can remember faces? Of course, the answer is what? Remember. So, is the sheep has the ability to remember faces? This is what we're gonna know later on when we read the text later on. Okay? Now, number 2. Primates can think or forget about answers to problems. Now, what do you mean by primates? Any animal that belongs to the group of mammals, like human being, apes, monkeys, they are called primates. Okay? So primates can what? Think or forget about answers to problems? Can think. So primates can think about answers to problems. Number 3, some dogs feel or understand pictures of objects. So the answer is understand. So some dogs understand pictures of objects. For example, if you show a dog a picture of something, of a pole, for example, so the dog can recognize that this is a picture of a ball, then he can run and bring the ball to you. This is the meaning of the sentence here. Okay, let's check whether these statements or sentences are true or false by reading the text now. But before this, I want you to read this one, because here or findings of scientists. So meet the cleverest animals. So we are talking about animals, the intelligence of animals, none to science. There are some skills which are key signs of intelligence in human. They include memory, creativity, and communication. So these are key signs. So humans are able to memorize, to be creative, to communicate with others. So that's why we call human beings as intelligent creatures, okay? But recently, scientists have been investigating these skills in animals too. So what did they find? They have found out some surprising things. And this is what we are going to know now after reading this glossary. I want you to remember the meaning of this one, creativity, and we have explained it later on. Using the imagination earlier, using the imagination to create something. To investigate means to make a check, to find something out. To recognize, to identify someone or something from the appearance. Captivity, this is an important one, being imprisoned or confined. Zoo can be or can consider to be a kind of captivity to animals because they cannot go out of cages. Okay, so they are imprisoned in these cages. Now let's read the text and find out the answer of the 3 statements that we have come across before. So we are still in page 18 and we have question 4 here. Read and listen to the text. Complete the gaps 1 to 3 with the headings. There is 1 extra heading. Actually, we have 4 headings here. communication, creativity, fear, and memory. We need only 3 of them to fill in the gap here. So I will play the track and I want you to read in the same time and check the idea of each text. So one of these texts will talk about, for example, communication, or about creativity, or about fear or memory. So based on the words they use, the kind of vocabulary they use, the information they provide, I want you to decide which title suits which number here, okay? But before we go on, I want you to look at these animals here. This is called Edward. It is a sheep. This is a dog, Betsy. And this is a chimpanzee called Kanzi. And of course, we've talked about orangutan before. So I want you to just read it carefully and listen while reading to this track, and then decide the appropriate heading for each part of this text. So let's start.
Unit 2.2. Meet the cleverest animals known to science. There are some skills which are key signs of intelligence in humans. They include memory, creativity, and communication. Recently, scientists have been investigating these skills in animals too. They found out some surprising things.
Okay, let's start now.
1. Biologist Keith Kendrick has been testing the memory of sheep like Edward for several years. He's proved that sheep can remember faces for about 2 years. They recognize both other sheep and humans, and they prefer faces that show happiness to anger or fear. 2. In the wild, orangutans make leaves into rain hats, pillows, and even gloves. Orangutans are expert tool users. An orangutan called Fu Manchu has escaped from a zoo 3 times, using a piece of wire to unlock his cage. Scientists have been studying how animals use tools since 1960, when Jane Goodall first reported it. They've discovered that in addition to primates, elephants, many birds, and even octopuses use tools. 3. Kanzi is a bonobo. Bonobos are a type of chimpanzee which only live in the Congo, but Kanzi has always lived in captivity. He's been talking to humans since he was a baby. He's learned to use more than 360 keyboard symbols, and he understands thousands of spoken words. He's been playing the piano for us this morning. He's pretty good at it. He's even played with Paul McCartney. And finally, meet Betsy, who has been busy today too. She's been running around collecting objects for researchers. Betsy is so clever that she understands pictures as well as spoken words. So, when you show her a photo of a ball, she brings you a ball. Do you think she'll recognize herself in this photo?
Okay, so I wish that you understood the idea of each text here. So let's start with number 1. Which title do you think is the correct one to put it here? Is it communication or creativity, fear or memory? I think the correct one here is what? Is memory. So memory is number 1. So we write here memory. Okay. How did we know this? Actually, we have keywords here. Biologist Keith Kendrick has been testing the memory of sheep like Edward for several years. He has proved that sheep can remember faces. So this text is talking about memory, about remembering things and so on. So the most appropriate title here is memory. Okay, what about the second one, number 2? Which title do you think is the correct one here? If you say creativity, number 2, so you are correct. So we write here creativity. Okay. What about the third one, the last one here? We have fear and we have communication left. Which one is the correct one? Actually, the answer is number 3 is what? Communication. Good. Communication. And in this text especially, they are talking about Kanzi and they are talking about Bitsy and the way they can communicate with others and how can they understand thousands of spoken words, for example. And regarding Bitsy, it's a clever dog which recognize faces and pictures, and they said that she understands pictures as well as spoken words. So when you show her a photo of Paul, she brings you a Paul. Okay? So I wish that you've got the idea of each part of the text. Now let's move to the second part of our lesson, which is about grammar. Today we are going to study the present perfect continuous, and before we start explaining the structure of this tense, I would like you to watch this video. The video will show you the structure of this tense and also will show you the uses of this tense. And then after you watch it, I will explain it more here, and then we will have some questions to make sure that you understand the tense. So let's start the video here.
Welcome to English Grammar Spot. This tutorial is about the present perfect continuous. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to form a present perfect continuous and when to use a present perfect continuous. But before we get started, it's good to know how to conjugate the verb to have. For the singular forms, I have, you have, he has, she has, it has. And for the plural forms, we have, you have, they have. Now let's get started. Let's take a look at these sentences. I have been working a lot lately. It has been snowing since Friday. Both these sentences are in the present perfect continuous tense. How to form a present perfect continuous? We use the auxiliary verb to have, the past participle of the verb to be, which is been, the base form of the verb, and ing. For example, I have been working all afternoon. You have been listening to the radio for the past hour. He has been sweeping the floor all afternoon. She has been spending a lot of money lately. It has been raining all week. And for the plural forms, we have been playing computer games all night. You have been searching for a supermarket. They have been watching the news all afternoon. Now we need to pay special attention to verbs that end in an E. For example, live, make, close, and wipe. These verbs drop their E. Take a look at the examples. I have been living here for quite some time now. He has been making a lot of noise lately. They have been wiping the floor for over an hour. Please note that living, making, and wiping no longer have an E. Now let's take a look at the present perfect continuous in questions. Again, we use the auxiliary verb to have, the past participle of the verb to be, the base form of the verb, and ing. Has she been talking about him? Have you been playing tennis? Have they been doing their job? For negations, we do the same, but we add not to the auxiliary verb to have, becoming haven't or hasn't. I haven't been listening to the news. She hasn't been waiting for you for over an hour. They haven't been paying attention. Now let's take a look at when we use a present perfect continuous. We use a present perfect continuous for activities that started in the past but have continued in the present. For example, I have been traveling for a few years, so I started traveling a few years ago and I'm still traveling. They have been working as a chauffeur, so in the past they started to work as a chauffeur and they still are chauffeurs. We also use the present perfect continuous for things that happened in the past, but it's not important when they happened, so we do not need to know the time when they took place. She has been visiting her aunt a lot. They have been repairing that car. So both these sentences lack time. We also use the present perfect continuous for things that are annoying. For example, I've been doing your dirty laundry all afternoon. They have been playing loud music all night long.
Okay, so let's explain the most important points here. Of course, you know that the sentence in English starts with the subject. And then here we add has or have. If the subject is he, she, it, we add has. If the subject is I, you, we, they, we add have. And then we add the word been. Then we add the verb plus ing. And then we write the objective or the complement of the sentence. Let's check the first example here. Here we have the subject he. That's why we use has. But if you look at the word has here is abbreviated to apostrophe and s only. So instead of writing has like this, we can write it like this. Okay? Instead of writing have in this way, we can write it like this. Okay? So he has, and then we have been, and we have the verb test plus ing. His memory is the complement of the sentence. Also here, we have or we've been, study is the verb here, plus ing, studying, sheep. So we've been studying sheep. This is the affirmative form of the tense. Now let's see the negative one. In negative only, we can add not. Simply, we can add not here, and we can add not here. So, he has not, or they have not. Also, we can make an abbreviation of this one. So, instead of writing has not in two words, we can bring it in one word, and it becomes hasn't, like this. And have not will be what? Haven't. Okay, so let's check the example here. She hasn't. We didn't say haven't because we have she as a subject. So she hasn't been, don't forget been. It's an important one in this tense. Practicing the piano So she hasn't been practicing the piano. They haven't. Why is it haven't, not hasn't? Because the subject what? They. So remember this. It's very important. They haven't been paying attention. So pay is the verb plus ing, paying attention. Now, how can we form the question? Only we bring has or have at the beginning of the sentence, and then we write the subject plus been plus the verb plus ing, and we form and the object or the complement of the sentence, and then we have a question mark here. So only we take this part here only. This is what we do. So, have you been running? Has he been playing the piano? So, how can we form this question, this sentence, and convert it to a question? Or let's choose this one, for example, because this is a negative form. We have been studying sheep. So, have we been studying sheep? And this is a question. I hope that this kind of explanation was clear for you. And now let's move to the uses. When do we use the present perfect continuous? Actually, we use this kind of tense in order to talk about recent or unfinished activities. And actually, we use it when we talk about an event which happened here, any point in the past, and have continued to the present, and may continue to the future also. So, we have been studying sheep means that we started studying sheep in the past, and we still studying sheep in the present, and it might continue to study the sheep also in the future. Okay, but make sure that with verbs like make, for example, take, when we add the ing to such verbs, we need to omit or delete the e here. So it becomes making and taking. So try not to forget this rule. Also, if we have one syllable verb like run, which ends with consonant and preceded by vowel. Vowel means U or O, A, I, E. We do what? We write N 2 times. We write double N, and then we add ing. So running. You see? Stop. It becomes what? Stopping. We add more N here, and we add more P here. Okay? This is in case that we have one syllable. What do we mean by one syllable verb? It means that we pronounce it one time in one syllable. So run, stop. Okay? But you have to be careful here, because the last consonant letter here should be preceded by vowels. Okay? In this case, you do such thing. And the last notice here, you need to be careful with such verbs like be, know, believe, like, understand, and so on, because we don't use the continuous tense with such verbs, you know, because they are verbs which talk about mentality, talk about feeling, believing about something, knowing. So we don't use the continuous form of the verb of the tense here. Okay, so we don't say, for example, she has been believing about something. We don't say like this. We don't say, for example, they have been liking. This is not correct. Okay, so we don't use the present perfect continuous or any kind of tense continuous in with these verbs. Okay, for more information I want you to go to page 125, and you can find more examples and more exercise, so you can train yourself and have a deep understanding about this tense. Now I want you to open your workbook in order to answer 3 questions actually, and I want to make sure that you understood the tense very well. So let's start with number 5. Write sentences. Use the present perfect continuous form of the verbs. Okay, now here we have an example. Jenny practice the violin. Okay, we need to use the present perfect continuous form to write this sentence. So here we have the subject Jenny, because she, so we wrote has, and we add been, then we have the practice, and we add ing, then the complement of the sentence. Okay, let's start with number 1. They and play rugby. Okay, so let's write it here. They have or has. They what? They have. Okay, they have been, play, and we add what? ing, then rugby. Okay, here we can write, for example, in this way: they've been playing rugby. Okay, the second one, the scientist what? Has, because it's singular, has been. The verb is look at, so looking, we add ing, looking at something under a microscope. Okay, let's see more examples, more questions. The children, this is the subject, the children have been. Make we have e, but we don't write e here because we said that when we add ing to the verb we delete e. So the children have been making a cake. Number 4, the boys have what? Been. Don't forget been. We have the verb run. You remember this? So we write another n here, and then we write ing because it's one syllable verb. The boys have been running again. So how did we know that this is a recent event? Because if we see the picture, we can see that they are tired. So they started running in the past and now they are tired. Okay? The two last questions in this main question. So he, notice that we have not work, so we need to form the negative form of the sentence. He hasn't been working very hard. How did we know? Because he looks very comfortable, not tired, not exhausted, and he is sitting on the chair happily. The last one here, I. Also we have negative form. I haven't been. We have sleep as a verb, so we need to add ing. I haven't been sleeping well this week. Okay, so this is the way how we form the sentence in the present perfect continuous. Okay, we will have this last question, and then I will let you complete the rest as a homework because the time is running out. So complete the questions, use the present perfect simple or continuous. So we need to use the present perfect simple or the present perfect continuous. Now, how long have you been doing your homework? This is an example. Okay, here, how long? Because normally we use how long in order to ask about the duration. Since it is continuous action, so it means that it took time to be done. So how long, same, has, but not have. Why? Because we have Tina here. Tina, how long has Tina, or how long has she? Then we have collecting, but before this we add been. Don't forget this. How long has Tina been collecting seashells? Okay, so I want you to complete the rest here and find out the correct answer based on the example you are given and based to the example I gave you also. Okay, so we gonna end this lesson, and I wish that you understood something and you get benefit out of this lesson. So let's meet inshallah next week, and goodbye.